Show thanks to Nissan, the all-new Nissan MP300 Navara, powerful made clever. Home, timber and harbour, go where the tradies go. Sportsbet.com.au. Download the mobile app today. Very nice. 6 teams left in the race for the 2015 Premiership, and all sorts of pressure on all sides going into the first week of the finals, but none more so than on the Kangaroos. When you make a decision to rest 9 players in round 23, you're putting it all on the line, and the Kangaroos came out and did a number on the Tigers, and they live to fight another day. The coach of the Kangaroos joins us. Please welcome Brad Scott.
Well done, mate. Well done, the best.
Got it? Very nice to see you, Bradley.
Thank you.
There was pressure on everyone at this time of year. All teams were under pressure, as we said, but you did make a brave decision, and in your mind, the correct decision to rest players coming into round 23. Win, you're a genius, and you sit here. Lose, then you'd probably still be copping it. How much of a relief was it in the end?
Oh, look, I was just wrapped for our supporters and players. I thought it was a great day for our club, but I mean, we make all sorts of decisions that we're going to be judged on, you know, on a daily basis, let alone weekly and yearly, and we live by those decisions. We make the best decision with the information we've got at hand, and clearly we thought we needed, or a certain number of players needed a spell, and you know, if we're vindicated or not, I'll let other people be the judge.
21 points behind twice through the course of the game, and you did run over the top of them. Are you able to put any sort of measurement on whether or not it had an impact, or having spoken to the playing group?
Oh, the players certainly felt fresher, and I think that, you know, these guys would know that most players come the end of the season, they're carrying some sort of niggle, and you know, the rest can do them good. And we had consecutive 6-day breaks going into the final, so we were conscious of getting our players in the best shape. But you know, we thought that even though we were behind, we controlled the game for large parts, even though Richmond had spells where they clearly had the momentum and played really well. So it was a tight-fought final, and probably played the way a final should be.
Scotty, you've said for a long time internally, and now for a fair while externally, that you needed to build a list and a game style that was going to stand up in September. Won 3 of the last 4. There yet, or still lots of work to do?
No, it's still clearly work to do. I think when you look at the best sides in the competition and the sides that have consistently finished in the top 4, I think we've got a fair bit to prove against those sides. But you know, we've played a game style that we think is going to be September type footy, and that will hold up. And at times we've been blown away. I think 4 or 5 years ago we were blown away by the really good sides, but we wanted to keep playing the same style rather than just try and hold up defensively and have honourable losses. So that's resulted in some pretty disappointing performances, but we've all been building towards, you know, playing this type of footy, you know, in September when it counts.
It's still relatively young in coaching terms. I reckon you're still learning every day. I imagine that's the case. I want to ask you about the period where you missed the 4 weeks with major back surgery. So you had to take a step back. You were bedridden. You couldn't do much except watch telly from, watch footy from the lounge room. The perception is you came back from that period and took a harder stance with the playing group. Is that fair? Is that the perception or the reality? And if so, how did that come about?
I think it's fair to a certain extent, but it wasn't necessarily harder or softer. It was just a different perspective. And when you get caught up in the day-to-day grind of AFL coaching, you spend a hell of a lot of time working on your job, but not a lot of time observing from the outside. And watching the game on TV, I had a completely different perspective. I had time to reflect on what we were doing and where we were going. And I came back with some pretty clear focuses on what we needed to do and what we needed to fix. And probably the biggest thing to come out of that was just the fact that, you know, we couldn't rely on just our best players getting us over the line each week. It wasn't going to be consistent. And when you play really good teams in finals, you need a really even contribution. So we redefined some roles, and so far so good.
Speaking of good players, the game starts in the centre, and every time a goal is kicked by either side, it recommences in the centre. To that end, Todd Goldstein has been grand. Why has he been grand?
I I think I might know where you're going here, Sam.
No, I'm not.
I think we should.
Not at all. Don't say that.
We should tell all the
No, we
audience.
shouldn't. No, I didn't ask that.
No, go on.
Mate,
tell all-
take some credit. Take some credit. I know that Goldie got a phone call from you a couple of years ago, and if Goldie's going to be honest, he's going to give the credit where the credit's due.
Hey, Brad, did you know that the game was starting in the middle of the ground? Is that something you learned?
Well, it was a preamble to why it is so important to have a winning tap ruckman, Shane, you imbecile.
Now, not only are you in charge of the players, you're also in charge of what goes on the banner. And on the weekend for the Tigers, it was Tigers don't win finals, we do. Is that right? You gave that the big tick, said let's go get them?
I prefer the other side where it said North Melbourne welcomes refugees, but you want to show that bit or?
No.
It's far too political for Shane, Brad. Don't ask him those questions. Just get back. So, I understand what you're saying when you come back. So you got a different perspective on things, and I guess from the outside we can only look at it and see the action. So, I think Lindsay Thomas was dropped not long after you got back. Boomer was made a sub not long after you got back. So, were they subtle messages or not so subtle messages that you wanted to send to those guys?
I don't think they were subtle messages. I think they were pretty clear. But the feedback's really consistent to all those players. And in Boomer's case, I mean, it wasn't. People looked at it as a punishment. Everyone had their view on why he was made sub. We've been talking about making Boomer a sub for years, and when we got the indication from the AFL they were going to phase it out, we thought, well, we better have a look at it. And Boomer has been. I think he reflects what I'm talking about, where he's carried our football club on his diminutive shoulders for a long time, and we couldn't continue to do that. Going into next season as a 38-year-old, we needed to spread the load a lot more and redefine some other roles. And within that, he needed to know that he needed to just play his role for the team and not have 35 possessions every week.
Hey, Scott, a couple of players I think have been really, really important. Emerging player in Taylor Garner, who's had enormous injury issues, but has managed to string half a season together, and I think all North Melbourne fans are really excited by what they see from him. And Robbie Tarrant, who's played about as many games, but has been at the club for 8 years. But a breakout year for him, 21 games, and starting to really clunk it as a defender and deliver on enormous talent.
Yeah, and terrific that Robbie Tarrant, as a restricted free agent, was willing to re-sign with us for 4 years. We've stuck by Robbie through thick and thin, and he's doing the same with us now. So we've always thought that if Robbie got a fair go at it and some continuity in his footy, he'd show what he can do. And he's had an outstanding year for us as a genuine fullback, and that's allowed Scotty Thompson, Lockie Hansen to play slightly different roles.
And I reckon Garnes, given the way you went about your footy, would be, if not your favourite, certainly one of them, because he's got some nice mongrel about him.
Yeah, he loves the scrap, he loves the contest, and I think he'll be a fan favourite, let alone, a coach's favourite. And all North Melbourne people just love the way he goes about it. Doesn't take a backward step, and he was a first-round draft pick and got some genuine talent, but it's the competitiveness that I love.
You finished with the Dorothy Dix questions, have you, Jim? Anything else you'd like to just offer him so that he can let go?
Joel's ready to go.
I know, he's ready to
Brad,
go.
there's probably one guy that's doing it tough at the footy club at the moment. It's probably Daniel Wells. Is he close or...?
Oh, it's a really tough question, Joel. He's making really good progression. He actually came back and played in the VFL, played 2 games and had an unrelated calf injury, which is not related to his Achilles, but it's another injury, and that's probably a reflection of the lack of conditioning he'd had up until playing. But we're still optimistic that he'll get enough work in, that if we're good enough and we keep winning, that he may be available next week to play. But he'll have to push some good players out. We've got a pretty fit and available list at the moment, but clearly at his best, he's one of the best players in the game.
Scotty, stick with us. Let's have a look at this game. You might get some insights from Heath Shaw over there as an expert on this game of football. Sydney taking on North Melbourne. If you don't mind, Saturday night, ANZ Stadium. The winner goes through the prelim final. The Swans, of course, were brave. They went down by 9 points to 3-0. Another 5 minutes they might have got there in the end. Nick Smith comes in, Sam Reid out with a hamstring. So no Reid, no Franklin in that forward line. They take on the Kangaroos. Go. Defeated Richmond by 17 points last Sunday at the MCG. Wake was great with 4, Peachy with 2. Boomer with 2, unchanged going into this big game up at ANZ Stadium. Get some thoughts from the boys. Joel.
Start with me, guys. Yeah, I watched both games last week, and Josh Kennedy, was the heartbeat for Sydney. He played so well. Losing Reid will definitely hurt him down forward, especially with Buddy and Luke Park already being out. So I have North Melbourne winning.
Louis, nice. Peter?
Yeah, obviously, Sydney have been hit by injury and all that the last few weeks. Got to kick a winning score against North, who were very impressive on the weekend. Love watching that game. So for me, heart says Sydney, because obviously the brothers there, but North is going to be a very, very good game.
Nice, Peter.
Very good. Look, Sydney obviously very brave last week. I'll tell you one guy I like for you, or I like all your team, but Ben Brown, the big Tasmanian. Just got a great work ethic, keeps pushing up and down, and very underrated. I like the way he goes about it. ANZ Stadium, hopefully this will be the last game ever of AFL football there, because it's a bit of a tip. But I'm tipping North Melbourne in a bit of an upset to win.
Very nice, Shane.
Also, guys, obviously Reece Shaw, we know he's a premiership player. We're going to have a look at some footage here where he did win the premiership. And have a look at these louts in the background. One would be Heath. Just giving it to him. Obviously had a few too many on the day. What are you actually saying there, Heath, to your brother?
I've got no idea. Your guess is as good as mine there. Looks like I won the premiership, I reckon. Yeah, I was pretty excited.
Obviously very tight. He didn't even come over towards you. He just ran off.
He didn't give us much there, did he? He was go about his business, and yeah, we're pretty pumped that day.
He's been a great servant, and we wish him well. Hopefully, for his sake, he can extend it beyond this week. But he's announced his retirement, so well done to Reece Shaw on a fantastic career. They're going to have to do something a bit different, Brad, from a forward line point of view. I know they had 25 scoring shots last week, only kicked 7 goals. No Reid, no Franklin. What are you expecting from that forward half?
Well, I thought Fremantle did a good job of pushing them wide, and look, Sydney are usually a relatively easy side to plan for, because they've been so good over such a long period of time. They don't need to change much. This week presents a completely different challenge. Their forward line, I think, is really unpredictable, and that is a bit of a worry for a coach, for an opposition coach, because we don't know exactly what we're going to face. Probably a little bit smaller than usual, but we think we've got a really flexible defence, so I don't think we'll change too much in how we defend. But the smaller Sydney forwards are certainly going to be a danger.
Yes, I mean, you've got 3 who are 193 centimetres plus, and Spud Frito's 189. So, I mean, if they do go real small, do you back those boys in, or do you have to throw that around?
Oh, no, we'll back them in. Scotty Thompson, we've been wanting him to play small for a long time, but just the lack of Robbie Tarrant type has meant that he's had to play above his height and weight. So we think we've got 7 or 8 guys that can play back there, and we'll throw it around a little bit depending on what Sydney do. But it's again, I mean, Isaac Heaney's had a terrific year. Gary Rowan's a really good up and coming young player. So there's going to be enough challenges there for us to confront.
Oh, and 10 of the last 11, they've won the Swans and humiliated us in this ground last year. So there's not a Dorothy Dix. That's absolutely...
You two, look, get a room, you two.
I was just pointing out that we got poleaxe when we played there last
let's
year.
go through the whole list. Now, go on. Anyone else we've missed?
I wasn't talking.
I want to ask you a question.
Did
he answer that?
No.
No, good. Well, go ahead. What was the question?
You interrupted it. Go and ask your question.
I got a question for you.
Go on.
As long as they're football-related matters, do you have any problem with the crowd booing players from either side on the day?
No, I have a problem with serial booing of Adam Goodes, and have had right from the start, because I think it's a totally inappropriate way to handle a champion
So
of our
if
game.
Todd Goldstein is lining up for goal to win the game, would you worry that the Swans crowd would boo him?
No.
And vice versa, if Adam Goodes was lining up for goal?
No, because we know with Adam there's another dimension to it, which is unsavoury, and I don't agree with that, and haven't from the start.
Got a weak answer. Now listen.
Yours is a weak approach because you know that it's just populist and it's rubbish.
Well, here's another good question. Now you're going gangbusters, mate, and your contract is up next year. Would you think it would be time now to tiptoe into the President's office and ask for an incremental increase and an extension? And would you be expecting that to happen sooner rather than later?
No, we'll do it the way we've always done it.
When is that?
Always, Sam. Probably sometime before the contract comes up in the next at the end of 2016.
No.
But we'll make,
Mate,
to be in all honesty, I mean, we'll make a decision that is best for the football club not best for me, not best for anyone else. I mean, we've set the example with Brent Harvey,
Brad.
with the message we sent there, and we'll do the same with me.
Brad, that is nonsense, mate. It's it's in the best interest of you is what you make a decision, and you'll be sought after because there's a few jobs going to be up for grabs next year.
Yeah, which
I
ones?
think you make your club and you build your culture around teammanship and what players do for their club, and if that example's not set from the top down, then you can't ask your players to follow the same example.
He has a much more selfless attitude
Exactly
than you, Samuel, and he's to be applauded for it. Let me tell you, footy tickets to the grand final are always very hard to find, but if you want to get along, secure your seat at the Blackwoods North Melbourne Grand Final breakfast package. Will run out very quickly. Head to nmfc.com.au and kick off your morning at the iconic event before heading to the big game. Jim will be there going head-to-head with
Malcolm Turnbull.
nmfc.com.au or call 1300 Kangaroos to secure your seat. Now, Bradley...
And Bill Shorten.
Oh, hold on, Max. It is a very busy time, and we appreciate... You got one more, have you?
No, I was going to give you a tip.
Oh, go on then.
Sorry, I'm very sorry.
What's your tip?
Because we hang out for that.
I don't believe the Swans can kick as badly. That was a disgrace last week, and I reckon, I reckon the Swans will get hold of their kicking skills and might take North Melbourne just over the line.
All right, nicely done. Well, I'm of the opinion that last year the Kangas went up there on the back of some tough finals. The Swans had the weekend off and got them in a good time. I think it's almost reversed. The Kangas are fresh. They come back a bit beat up. And I think North Melbourne might beat Sydney on Saturday night. But, yes, thanks, Jim. We do appreciate you coming in, mate. We know how busy it is at this time of year. So much on your plate, but we appreciate you giving up some time and good luck on the weekend.
Appreciate
Brad
it.
Scott.
Thanks, guys.
Basking in the glory of it all. We are going to a break next. Sam, straighten up because it is time for Sam's mailbag when we come back. Stick around.